The DPRK has announced that it is now in a state of war with North Korea, which means any issues that happen between them from now on will be dealt with in a wartime manner. Obviously, this is very strong language, and one that intends much violence if anything is to break out. And obviously, this hostility also extends to the United States as well. In addition to this, just before this announcement was made, the DPRK informed everyone that they were now aiming missiles at U.S. bases in the Pacific, namely Guam and Hawaii. This statement by the DPRK to officially step into a state of war should not be unexpected. After all, for the last several months, ever since the successful launch of a satellite into space, or more correctly, since the attempt before that to launch a satellite into space, the U.S. has completely condemned their right to peaceful space exploration and called this an act of provocation, and even gone so far as to outright lie and claim this is a missile test, when it is in fact a rocket sending a satellite to the moon. That's what started all of this. The U.S. cannot accept the fact that the DPRK launched a satellite into space, and importantly, did so before South Korea managed to do so. This is what they cannot stand. They cannot stand to have a North Korea that is, to have a Korea, a peninsula, that is free from U.S. occupation. They cannot allow any one of their little neo-colonies to break away and not serve their imperialist interests. The U.S. reaction to this has been to go to the UN and start crying for new sanctions against the country to block food from coming in. That is part of the new sanctions, to block food. Apparently, according to the UN and the U.S., the best way to stop a government that they don't like and claim are just attacking and oppressing its own people is to block the people from getting food. So for all these wild claims that they care about the people of the DPRK and they want human rights while they ignore it in their own country, they deliberately do something harmful to hurt the people of the DPRK by harming their ability to get food. And why? Because they know the people of the DPRK don't support the U.S. They know they don't stand on their side. They stand on the side of their own country, of their own people against the U.S. aggressors. We've all seen the footage of parades where not just military, but now worker peasant guards as well are standing together with the military with the clear intention of defending their country. Just recently, the DPRK announced that it was now basically arming the rest of its population in preparation for war. The entire population is ready to fight to the death to defend their sovereignty from American invasion. Well, what choice do they have? They've done nothing wrong. They haven't made any acts of aggression against the United States until they started making them towards the DPRK. This satellite launch is a legitimate, legal right to peaceful space exploration that did not violate any rules. If you live in a country and you had some bully, what is essentially an imperialist bully, blocking you from getting food, how would you react? How would you react to someone deliberately trying to starve you to death because they don't like what it is that you do? Think of the kulaks, the people who hoarded grain because they wanted to get a better price during a famine caused by weather, only to complain that the government came in and removed them off the land, took the grain and gave it out to people who were starving. Of course they would react violently. If you try to harm people like that, they're going to defend themselves. This is essentially, really is, a one-sided attack by the United States against the DPRK. They've literally not done anything wrong to cause any of this aggressiveness. Yet, when they dare even make a statement back to what's being done with them, then it's they're the evil aggressors who did everything. This reminds me of the schoolyard bully who would go around attacking people, and if anybody dared do anything back to him, he would immediately run crying to the authorities, saying how he was being abused, how he was picked on, and this kid just did this thing to him. That's exactly what it sounds like. These actions by the United States speak the words of a coward, one who wishes to attack others but negate any right they have to defend themselves. The DPRK has been on the losing side of history because of the actions of the United States and because of the UN. All because they declared that they would refuse to bow to the interests of capitalism. Because they would not allow the profit enterprises of world imperialism into their country. Then that is exactly what this is about. The DPRK's unwillingness to just simply bend to the will of the ruling profit motive elite. And the DPRK stands very firm in its denunciation of these acts of aggression by the U.S., all in an attempt to destabilize and essentially destroy the Korean people. As the U.S. continues to push this war against the Korean people, we come closer and closer to a possible nuclear situation. We have to face the specter of a nuclear holocaust because of the world capitalist imperialist system. And yet, despite the obviousness of this, it's North Korea that's given the blame, as if they're the aggressors, just being really mean for no reason, picking on the poor United States, the poor wealthiest bully in the entire world. Anybody who genuinely represents the interests of freedom should stand on the side of the DPRK, whether you like the country or not. They are not the aggressors. The United States is. It never ceases to amaze me how no matter how many times the United States attacks somebody for their own interest, kills millions upon millions of people, tens of millions of people, literally, given the entire history of the United States, hundreds of millions of people for its own benefit, continue to jump on its side on its in its defense. I mean, even when it turns out, even when they acknowledge the Vietnam War was based on a complete lie, just trying to get a hold of it as a colony, and all the subsequent Afghanistan, Iraq, and they admit that these are all unjust, immoral wars that should never have taken place and were based on lies. Yet still, they jump on the side of the U.S. over North Korea. And this is mainly aimed at you liberals, who talk a big game about not wanting war and that the wars are unjust and it's all being done for the profit of the elite, which it is. And then every time it happens, you turn around and you jump on their side. The same thing is happening in Syria right now. This could not be any more clearly being done by a group of so-called rebels that are actually just backed by the West, mainly being mercenaries, and yet still believe the lies in the media to make them back U.S. interests. They did the same thing, including myself. I fell for it against Gaddafi when the whole Libyan situation started. When mercenaries were brought in the country and passed off as regular people in the city, ignoring the majority of Tripoli actually coming out and rallying in support of Gaddafi, the majority of the population in the city coming out to support him. And still, the liberals jump right on the pro-war, pro-imperialist side. The DPRK is almost in a situation right now where it almost has no choice but to destroy the United States in order just for them to survive. We're all familiar with the metaphor of the animal trapped in a corner and then eventually it's just going to become violent in order to get out. What the United States is attempting to do to North Korea is nothing short of an attempt, is attempting genocide. Frankly, the United States deserves what may happen to it because of the actions that it's taking and its ignoramus population that just keeps going along with it. Even those who tend to be more progressive and tend to not support the wars are still jumping on the kill North Korea bandwagon. We have a very clear situation where the U.S. is the aggressor, is the bad guy, and is still being portrayed as a victim, still being portrayed as a country that wants to bring peace and democracy to everybody, when it can't even bring peace and democracy to itself. The people of the DPRK almost have no choice but to destroy the United States in order for them to just survive.